Hi, I'm Betty McLean, and welcome to Healthcare Hope, a podcast for nurses. With 2 decades of bedside experience and now as a certified burnout coach, I understand the challenges nurses face. I believe that all stress is manageable and burnout is not inevitable. Join me in building strength for yourself and hope for the future of our industry. Let's talk about burnout. Burnout is a hot topic, and you can open any social media app or turn on any TV program, and you're going to hear about some profession or another dealing with a burnt out workforce. Most often, some sort of healthcare profession, most of them are dealing with burnout. Now, the World Health Organization defines occupational burnout as a phenomenon resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And it characterizes it as feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distancing from one's job, feelings of negativism or criticism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. So, if that sounds like you, which is most nurses that I know, you're probably in burnout. So, I'm going to talk with you about the 4 stages of burnout as I categorize them based on lots of research that has been done for at least the last 50 years that I've kind of compiled in, and I use it as a way to help my clients decide where to focus their energy as they're recovering from burnout. So, there are, as I define it, 4 stages of burnout: early stage, middle stage, late stage, and final stage. And it is a little bit of a spectrum. So you might find yourself in times of higher stress or around certain holidays, moving more into those later stages. You might be able to change jobs and move back into the middle or early stages for a while. But generally speaking, you're going to progress from early down to final stage. So we're going to walk through each one, talk about what it looks like, and one quick thing that you can do to help yourself start to stabilize. The first stage of burnout often starts with a blow to your sense of self. And unless it's noticed and managed, it will be the beginning of burnout. So, this might be a stressful single event like a major trauma, either at your job or outside of your job, or it can be cumulative stress that is not managed properly, turns into chronic stress, and it has you believing that you are losing your ability to perform. You might feel imposter syndrome, you might feel a lot of shame. We're going to talk about some more symptoms in a second. Early stage, this overcompensation is characterized by you working harder in order to prove yourself, like to your boss, your manager, your significant other, or even your coworkers. Prove to them that you are worthy of attention and love and promotion, etc. It's not simply having a strong work ethic. That's different. This first stage of burnout happens when we feel insecure and we have a belief that we have to work hard enough to be worthy of love, which I don't believe is true. I believe everyone is worthy of love, regardless of how much or little they are working. Signs and symptoms of this early stage overcompensation might include compulsively overworking, picking up shift after shift when you know you should take a break, an inability to switch off and take a break, neglecting your personal needs might start showing up in erratic sleep, eating disruption, like just eating too much or not eating enough, and being irritable with your loved ones or even just lack of social interaction. One thing that you can do if you think this is you is you can take a little bit of time to think about the phrase, be a human being, not a human doing. So this is just you stopping and realizing that You are more than your work. And I encourage my clients to write down all the ways that you are more than a nurse, more than your job, more than what you do. You really need to take time to focus on your worth as a person outside of your job and getting your worth from more than just your job. If you do not catch it in the early stage, you will progress to middle stage, which is denial. In this stage, your brain is trying to deflect and dismiss in order to avoid feeling the hurt, the isolation, and the inadequacy of the early stage. Inadequacy feels very unsafe and very vulnerable. And for most people, the unmanaged brain will do anything to avoid painful feelings like inadequacy and vulnerability. So, in this stage, in the denial stage, the middle stage, signs and symptoms are going to be things like you dismiss your personal problems. So, things aren't great at home, it's fine. It'll work itself out. If you can name your feelings, you may feel threatened or anxious, but a lot of times at this point, people really dismiss and deny even their feelings. You may find yourself getting angry very quickly. And a lot of people in this stage tend to rewrite their values. Things that were important to them, they begin to dismiss. Friends, families, hobbies are seen as irrelevant. Work often for these people becomes their only focus. And if this is you, you might find yourself more and more intolerant of the people in your personal life, but also your coworkers. Problems in your personal and your professional life are viewed as being caused by time pressures, work, stupid people, not because of a lack of managing your self care, managing your stress, managing how you handle your boundaries. One thing that you can do if you're in this middle stage, you're finding yourself denying a lot, is to write down values that you want to hold most dear and true. And so, is family very valuable to you? Are relationships valuable? Do you find trust and love to be values that you esteem? Look at that list and consider if your current actions are matching your desired life values. When you're in burnout, you're often getting your sense of identity from work, and you're not consciously deciding what those values are most important to you. So it's also helpful at this stage, in addition to acknowledging your values, acknowledge to yourself that you are more than just your thoughts. Okay. Your thoughts and your feelings are not you, they are something that your brain creates and that your body creates and that you experience. You, the self of who you are, is more than just your thoughts and your feelings. And that is actually very powerful. It takes practice and often guidance from a therapist or a skilled life coach like myself, but you can actually create a different experience for yourself when you have some help to learn how to change your thoughts and your feelings. If you are not able to stop the slide that is burnout, the next stage that you'll experience is called late stage, and I call it the withdrawal stage. So in this stage, your brain is tired. It's tired of hurting, tired of being angry. Your brain's just trying to find relief from the stress. And it does that by distraction and pulling away. So, from an evolutionary standpoint, this stage actually makes a lot of sense. If you're in a situation in which you feel powerless and hopeless, the brain will draw back in an attempt at self preservation. The danger here comes is if you believe that your brain is correct rather than just being reactionary. It is vital at this stage to question your thoughts. and determine the safest, most realistic course of action. In this stage, people's social life, so the signs and symptoms, social life is small or non-existent. And the social life that you do have is often limited, and you're pulling away from even people that you really, really loved. You may turn more and more to alcohol, drugs, or social media, and the change is becoming obvious, both to yourself and to your friends and family, who may actually express concern to you. You may begin to believe that you and other people are not valuable, and you won't be able to have full awareness of your own physical and emotional needs. So, one thing that you can do in this stage is listen. When people who love you and care about you say they're noticing that you're unhappy, they haven't seen you in a long time and they're worried about you, that's your opportunity to seek help. Okay. If no one's challenging you, but you notice yourself thinking, I used to be a lot happier, I'm angry all the time, or I used to be able to let things roll off my back, right? That's your brain noticing that there's something wrong. And you don't have to wait for someone else to say something. You can just reach out for help. Healing at this stage will most likely require a therapist or a life coach who specializes in burnout recovery, like myself. So, one thing that you can do while you're finding the right person to help you is you can journal what I call thought downloads, where you just take a piece of paper and just dump or download all of your thoughts onto that piece of paper, because that's going to help you reconnect to your inner world that in the middle stage, denial, you were kind of pushing away. So in this stage, your brain is done trying and your body starts to give up as well. The discordance between your brain's ability to keep you safe and your body's ability to push despite becoming exhausted just becomes unmanageable. You will no longer be able to white knuckle your way through a work shift or a social engagement. The signs might be feeling empty inside and depressed. If you can identify your feelings, you might express them as feeling lost, unsure, exhausted. Physical burnout will start showing up with a vengeance. So, clinical grade insomnia, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune diseases, panic attacks, clinical depression. At this point, it's a near total mental and physical collapse. And this is your time to get help. Full medical attention, full mental attention. If you are sliding into this stage, do not despair. You can fully and totally recover from these stages. In fact, in some ways, it's almost easier to get the support and help and healing in this stage because it's more widely recognized as burnout compared to some of the earlier stages. You're going to want a team around you. You're going to want a life coach and or a therapist, and definitely your primary care provider who can start helping you recover. But again, you're probably going to need all of them either overlapping or one after another. Always, if you find yourself in a dark place and you're considering harming yourself or harming someone else, please, in the US, call 988. And if you can't get in to see your primary care provider, just go to an urgent care. Tell them you're having full, full blown burnout and that you're considering harming yourself. They will help you. The important thing is start asking for help. The one thing that you can do best for yourself in this stage is find a counselor or a therapist. You will want, obviously, to get in and see your healthcare provider as well, but finding a therapist who specializes in burnout or a certified life coach like myself is going to be key in getting you stable and back on the road to recovery. So, I worked in acute care and medical surgical for 17 years before I actually left the hospital due to burnout. Looking back, I now know that I was back and forth between stages 2 and 3. I did a pretty good job of ignoring my symptoms or excusing my irritation, anger, anxiety, and dread on external events, just like we do in that stage two, the middle stage. But really, my internal world wasn't anchored. I was drifting, right? In hurt, traumatic experiences, and I lost touch with me, who I am myself. And luckily, I found a life coach who was able to help me reconstruct that sense of self and values and unique strengths that make me me. So I've been able to heal out of burnout, and I now know how to keep myself out of burnout if I begin to slide on that path to a deeper, a later stage of burnout. I hope that this was helpful, and I just want to encourage you, if you've recognized yourself in any of those categories, any of those stages, whether it's the early stage where you're just overcompensating, that middle stage where you're just denying there's a problem, the late stage where you're withdrawing from everyone and pushing away your own needs, or in that final stage where your body just cannot cope anymore. No matter where you are on that scale, you can 100% become more joyful, more centered, and feel like the person that you want to be. It's just going to take a little bit of work. And the beautiful thing is, there are so many resources available to you. There's this podcast, there's other podcasts. Come on a free consult call with me, and we will talk about all of the ways that you specifically can try and that might be beneficial to you. You do not have to stay in burnout. It is not inevitable that once you're in burnout, you will have to leave your job as a nurse. That is not true. You can heal and get better, and I want to help you do that. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know how I can support you. Thank you for listening today. If you're ready for support and looking for a community of like-minded healthcare professionals, join me in my free private Facebook group called Healthcare Hope with Coach Betty. If you found this episode helpful or encouraging, please share it with your friends and fellow nurses. Subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Together, we can create strength for our lives and hope in healthcare.